Hello all, welcome back. Let's perform a quick Arch Linux installation. So Arch Linux is one of those distributions which you can pick the individual components apart from the base and the Linux kernel. It's like pretty much you can choose everything you want. You install Arch Linux from a TUI or a text based user interface. So you're not having something fancy like a Calamares installer or something. All you're going to get is like a bash, not bash, Arch Linux installation is CSH. So all you're going to get is a CSH prompt, and from there you can perform the installation. So if you look at the present installation which have been released in this month, you can see they have included an installation guide. So at some point of the installation, if you are getting stuck, you can use installation underscore guide. If you do that, you're going to get access to this well documented page. So you can hit space to go down and you can read like what operations need to be performed. So it specifies what type of partition need to be used, how you can partition the system, like how you can use the backstrap command to install the base, the Linux kernel, and the essential packages which you require, and how you can create your file system table, how you set your time zone, and all those things. Basically this is like you're doing everything you do from a general installer like Calamares in a text based user interface. So let me increase the font size. Okay, so I think you can see the like commands right now. So the way I'm going to perform this installation is by using Archfi script. I'm not going to perform a manual installation because Archfi is like relatively easier to perform for if you are new to installing Arch Linux. All you have to do is use the curl command, curl -L, and you have to specify the path to the file. So matmaul.github.io and archfi greater than archfi. If you do that, it's going to download the Archfi script, and you can use sh space Archfi. So it's going to give you a TUI, like this is like the YAST tool TUI. So you can like basically use this to set up your entire Arch Linux install. So you can select your language. So the language is English for me. Can select my keyboard layout. My keyboard layout is US. So if you're having any other different like keyboard layout, you can choose it over here. So this one is like you're doing the same step you are doing like from a text-based interface, but instead you are having all these prompts to make it relatively easier for you. So if you are new to installing Arch Linux, you can like use the Archfi script. So in every step it's going to specify like what command is being used. Like this, if you see over here, it's like telling export editor equals vim. So like you know what's going on behind this TUI. Now you can set your partition. So I'm going to use a GPT and EFI. So if you're having an older system which does not support UEFI, you have to select only EFI. No, only GPT, I'm sorry. Now I'm selecting this virtual hard drive 15 gigs. Erase, yes. So this is going to tell you like what steps are being done. Now I'm going to hit OK. Now it's going to tell you the partition system, like your first drive is EFI boot partition, the second one is your swap, and the third one is your root partition. So I'm going to hit Q and hit back. Now after the partition is completed, you can select partition and install. So you need to select your boot partition. So from the above, from the previous step, we know that it's SDA1 is our boot device, our swap device is SDA2, and our root device is SDA3. Home device none, and hit yes. Now we need to format those devices. Yes. So the boot device should be EFI. Like if you are using UEFI, you need FAT file system for your boot. So FAT32. So it's going to give you the command like mkfs fat swap is swap. Here you can pick whichever you want, like I'm going to use ext4. If you want btrfs, you can choose that. Okay, let's go for btrfs then, no problem. Can choose whichever you want. So it's the btrfs file system have been created. Any key to continue. Now I can mount all the drives. Now we are inside the installation. So basically what you do is, like if you want, you can edit your mirror list. Like if you're having slower downloads, you can edit the mirror list to get the fastest mirrors. So if you're doing it from a text-based install, you use a reflector. I don't know how it is done over here, and I don't want to tinker with too much because I have done this before, so I know I am having like pretty good mirrors over here. So install Arch Linux backstrap. We choose that, and we choose whichever kernel we want. We are going with mainline kernel Linux. So if you're having like an older system, or if you want like a more stable system, you can go with Linux LTS. So Linux N is performance kernel, and Linux hardened is for people who are paranoid about security. So for this one, we are going to install just mainline Linux. Like if you want, you can choose any kernel version you want. So Linux firmware, the optional package have been selected. So I'm going to hit tab to move. Click OK. So DOSFS tools and btrfs procs, the defaults are fine. I'm going to hit OK. Now it's going to download all the packages. It will sync the Arch Linux repositories, and it's going to download 362.48 megs of files. So like this may vary according to time, because Arch Linux is a rolling release distribution, so the packages may get updated anytime. So the size of the installations download may change, but basically all the packages you are going to see are like you will have the base Linux package, and this is like the step which does like backstrap / mount space base. Then you will have the Linux kernel, you will have the Linux - firmware, and you will have your text editor for configuring your text. That's the same step which is happening over here. So this will take some time because I'm having a slower internet connection over here. So I will get back after the download and installation is finished, and we will continue from there. I will cut the portion in the video where this download process is going on, or else the video will be like fairly large. So right now the download has have been completed, so it's going to start the installation process. So it will be a fairly quick install because this is having the base packages. Then you have your mainline Linux kernel, or whichever Linux kernel you have selected. Then you're having your Linux firmware package if you have selected that. Then you will be having your text editor. That is it's going to do a backstrap / mount space base Linux kernel, Linux firmware and Vim for my case. So if you have selected anything else, your installation may vary. Like if you have selected a different text editor instead of Vim, you're going to have that one. Same thing, you get the idea. Sometimes it may say you don't have firmware for this module AIC94Xs and WD719X, so that's not really a big problem or something. It's not going to cause any issues in your day-to-day use. Now you can configure your Arch Linux after you have completed the backstrap install. You can set the host name, so I'm going to use this one as my host name. Now I can set my keyboard layout. So there are multiple options, you can choose whichever you want. So you need to choose the keyboard layout for your system. Now I can generate locale. So mine is iwctl-8, so I'm selecting that. So my locale will be generated, and I can set time, so Asia, and I can pick Kolkata. That is my timeline. You can pick your timeline. If you're having a Windows installation, like if you're doing a dual boot, you need to pick local. If you're having like just Arch install, you can pick the UTC. So this is a virtual machine, I can pick a UTC, no problem. Now we have to set our root password. Now that's done. Can create the file system table or the fs tab. So we are going to use the UID genfs tab-u/mount and to greater than simple /mount/etc/fs tab. That's what it's doing. It's done. Now if you want, you can edit all these parameters, but I'm not going to tinker with that because this is just a base install. I'm going to select the bootloader. So you can use grub system deboot. If you are on UEFI devices, you can pick system deboot, and it's entirely up to your choice. Either go with grub because grub work for like almost all the system, and if you are having a newer system, you can go for system deboot. So I'm going to install the bootloader. I'm not going to edit the entries or loader because I'm going to leave the defaults. I'm going to hit OK. So now it's telling me like this is my configuration. Now I'm going to do a WQ for save and exit. It's done. Since the bootloader is completed, we have installed this one, so we don't need to do anything. You have like entries to your loader.conf, and inside your boot directory you are having a directory called loader. So inside the loader you will have a configuration file called loader.conf. So you have that. So if you want to add something to this, you can like specify console mode to keep. We are going to exit out of that, back, and if you want to install an Arch desktop, you need to download the Arch di script. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to hit OK because this is a purely base install. Arch Linux install Arch di is a second script. You can help workstation. No. Back. Oh, because our installation have been completed, we can unmount our drive. So it's going to unmount everything. So we are going back and we can reboot. Assuming you haven't like logged into your Arch Linux install because we haven't done something intentionally. We haven't installed network manager or DHCP service for like accessing internet. So if you log inside Arch Linux right now, and if you use that credentials to log in, like root, I'm going to log in with my password. Okay, so if I try something like pacman-syy, it's going to tell me like it's not able to connect to any of the mirrors because even though we have an internet connection, like we have an internet cable connected, it's not going to recognize that. For that it need a package. Either you can use the system D, network D, or you can use the network manager. So I have intentionally done it this way so that I can show you something. Like if you are performing an Arch Linux installation and somehow you get an error after the installation process is complete and you are unable to log in inside your Arch Linux install, you don't need to like reinstall, perform a full reinstall. You can log in, like you can use your installation media, like if you're having a CD or if you're having a USB drive, you can use that. You can chroot inside your Linux install and you can do the modifications. So for example, I'm going to reboot and I will show you how it is done. First thing we have to do is we have to reboot into firmware interface if we are using system deboot, and we are going to choose our CD. For this one I'm using CD. If you are having a USB or something, it will be available over here. And you log in, you go back to your Arch installation, and after you log into your Arch Linux installation, if you were using a Wi-Fi connection, you have to use iwctl command again, iwctl. After that you can do a station list and you can do a connect. Same process for the which you have done for the installation, you have to perform the same for this one, because each and every time you need to log in to your Wi-Fi. Because we are doing it from a live medium, those credentials will not be saved inside the live medium. So if you were on Wi-Fi, you have to use iwctl and you have to log in again. Now we are back on the Arch installation. So what we can do is basically we can perform, like if you were on Wi-Fi, you can do iwctl and follow like the installation process, and you can connect your Wi-Fi. And let me increase the font. Set font to -132b. Okay, I think I'm assuming you can read the font. So after that we are going to mount our root partition mount /dev/sta3. So sta3 is my root partition with the following /mount, and we are going to do arch-chroot and /mount. So we are inside like a chroot environment. I'm sorry. Now we can install pacman-s network manager and dhcpcd and wpa_supplicant. Can do that. It's going to download and install those packages. So when that is done, you can do basically systemctl enable capital N or uppercase N network and uppercase M manager. If you do that, it's going to enable your network manager, and you can basically exit out of the installer. Like this is for enabling the network services or installing the network manager. From here you can like pretty much perform installations or modifications. Like if you are experiencing issues with your boot, you can go to cd/boot if you have mounted boot, and you can change the loader and entries, and if you were experiencing issues in that part, you can pretty much do the modifications over there. Now we are going to exit and we are going to unmount everything. You mount -a, so we are going to get some errors, but it's not a big issue. Now we can reboot. so it's going to reboot to our like installed version. So if we log back in to that one, it's going to start everything as usual. Now we are back on our login prompt. You can use root and you can specify, like you can enter your password which you have given above, like while doing the installation. Now you can, like for this demonstration purpose, I'm going to change the font again. Set font to -132b. Oh, I'm sorry, 132b. I need to install terminus font, so pacman ss terminus font, I think. Yeah, now if I try set font again, it's going to work. Okay, yeah, our internet is already working. So that's it for today. I hope like this was helpful. I hope you all have a wonderful day.